Everybody, I want to thank you so much. My name is Sean Matheis, and as you can see, I'm joined by my partner Ryan Stuman and Fredrik Eklund, the Fredrik Eklund. We are here live, and we can hear you guys logging on, so we definitely appreciate everybody. I just want to thank you guys for taking action. Look, we work with a lot of celebrity coaches, the best of the best in the business. Fredrik Eklund being one of those, sold billions of dollars of real estate. And one thing that they've all said is that when they started, and the advice that they give for anybody looking to better their business is to get a mentor. Find somebody who has and who has done the things that you want to do and that you want to achieve in your life and in business. Align yourself with that person as a mentor. And Fredrik has graciously been able to do that. He's gone all over the country, all over the world, doing speaking engagements, and we've now been able to do this in a live setting via webinar and teleconferences, and he's been able to enrich and empower hundreds of brokers all over the world with his message. And alignments are everything in your life. So you have taken action, you've recognized that Fredrik is somebody that you want to align yourself with, and he's been able to do that for the first time, absolutely free tonight for 30 to 45 minutes. He's going to share some of his knowledge with all of you guys all over the world. And I'm going to turn this over to Ryan so that he can get into this thing.
Well, first of all, I see all of the comments in the chat log going on over here on the right-hand side of my screen, and there is no way I can keep up with all of y'all. There must be thousands of people sending messages. I see all of y'all saying hello and everything else over there. Fredrik and Sean can't see it, but I see it absolutely blowing up. Joseph, Mary, and Sandra. Sherry, I see a bunch of people over there blowing up, so thank all of y'all for showing up. Sherry's from Canada, by the way. We got sunny Cape, Florida, Bonnie, Steve. There's a ton of people over there, so that's awesome. We want to thank all of y'all for showing up. And just like Sean said, we put this together so that we have the best of the best. We're excited to be here. I'm excited to be here as well, but more importantly, I'm excited to be able to listen to what Fredrik's going to share with everybody right now. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend, business partner, mastermind leader, and the billion-dollar producing man himself, none other than Fredrik Eklund. What's up, man? Welcome.
So wait, so how many people do we have logged on right now? This is so crazy. I mean, technology is great and all, and I have an iPhone and I have a computer, but I've never webinared with like thousands of people. How many?
It doesn't give me a number until after it's over with, but I promise you, I keep looking out of the right-hand side of my eye. There are so many people saying hello in the comments over there. It's like impossible to even keep up with. So there's got to be thousands of people on this right now.
Well, I feel like a little bit nervous, and the funny thing about that is that when we filmed for the television show for Bravo, we have a bunch of cameras and lighting, and it's I never really get nervous, although there are millions of people watching that show. But then now, tonight, we have a few thousand. So anyway, I just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time. And I know because I saw on Facebook earlier today that a lot of people are from Europe, and they're in the middle of the night. Like in Sweden right now, it's 2 a.m. And in Australia, people are up. I mean, all over the world, people are kind of staying up to be part of this. So I feel really honored. Thank you.
You're right. I got a lot of messages with people over in Europe and different parts, Australia, saying, hey, it's going to be this time here, so I'm going to stay up for you. I'm rooting for you guys, so that's really awesome as well. So let's just jump right into this. We're limited on time. I know time's really important to you, Fredrik. So I'd like for you to start off just by everybody watches the show. They're a big fan of yours, but they may not really know your exact, like how you got into real estate, where you came from. So just walk us through that real quick. Just tell us your story.
Well, I mean, just want to say before I get into that, I just want to say a couple of words about why I guess I'm doing this. It's just, I came to New York City. This was 11, 12 years ago, and I had a dream to make it. I was very hungry to make it, but I never thought, I couldn't imagine that all of this was going to happen. I didn't expect to be one of or maybe the top broker in New York City. And I never expected, obviously, to have a television show. And, it just feels really good to be able to, I guess, kind of give back. The way that we designed this program, the Mastermind classes, I just look back on what I was lacking when I started 11 years ago in real estate. I had no knowledge. I didn't even know the streets of New York. I didn't know neighborhoods. I hardly knew the language. And then I went to school, of course, and you learn the law, but unfortunately the law itself is not going to make you successful. The only way to learn real estate, which is basically a language of its own, and negotiation, all of that stuff, is the only way is the hard way. So, looking back, if I had this 7-week class and someone who's actually gone through it all the last 10 years, it would have changed everything for me. What's so rewarding now, I've done it once this fall, is that people seem to really have been able to use the tools and doubled or tripled in some cases their business. But so I just want to say that it's been a really great ride. Now, just quickly, my background, not a lot of people maybe know that. Obviously I'm a real estate broker in New York, but I'm from Sweden, and I grew up in the suburbs of Stockholm, and my family, my dad, my mom, maybe some of you have seen them on the television show, and my brother, of course. And I guess the first contact I had with New York was when my father, he switched his business class tickets for work to 3 coach tickets, and he brought me and my brother to New York City. This was 1984, the first time. And I remember that week so well. And there are even photos of me being like 6, 7 years old. I'm up in the Statue of Liberty, and there's a photo where I'm looking out on the city, and you can see in my eyes that I'm basically deciding in that moment that I was going to move to New York. And it was sort of a vertical living that we don't have back home in old Stockholm, and a lot of drama in the city. And I just loved it, all that neon and all that, almost like a darkness, a danger to the city that I found so fascinating. And in that trip, I decided I was going to move to New York and I was going to make it. I didn't know I was going to do real estate, but yes, many, many years later, I just moved, and I never really looked back.
I want to address something real quick. Sorry, I've been paying attention on the right-hand side. Apparently, the Google Hangout, apparently the Google Hangout setting is working for about half the people and not working for the other. If you'll go to youtube.com/Ryan Stewman, you can see this live as well. Or if you check on the right-hand side, the chat box, there's a bunch of links over there as well. Apparently something about half of you are seeing it, about half of you aren't. Gotta love technology, but regardless, there's the link on the right-hand side in the chat box. Just look over there. It'll take you right to it. I apologize and for that right this second. So jumping back into technology, and so sorry about that, to being distracted a little bit there, Fredrik. I had a bunch of people sending messages, like I said, on the chat on the right-hand side. So now, when you came over here to New York, you obviously knew that you were going to make it, but you didn't know up front that you were going to make it in real estate, right? That you just kind of worked your way into that and kind of not really fell into it, but it was something that came across to you.
Yeah, I moved here, and I didn't know really what I was going to do. I just knew I was in love with the city already, and I wanted to make it in the city. And my friends, I guess, said to me, you should try real estate because you are very number-driven, analytical, and you have that sort of brain, but you love people. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest learning lessons I've had the last decade in real estate, that you have to dare to be yourself. Like, the people that know me think I'm very eccentric and animated and a high kick and I'm crazy, but that's just me, and that's really important. You have to dare to be yourself and be fun. I mean, I always say to my assistants and team members back home in Sweden, where I have a company, that nobody wants to work with a boring agent. You got to know your numbers, and you got to know the business, of course, but at the same time, you have to be yourself. And I remember when I started in the industry, I was afraid, like everyone else, I think, to be myself. I thought that to be successful in real estate, you have to be some sort of real estate robot. You have to be very almost holding myself down and trying to figure out how I should act. And many years later, I just realized the best way is to be completely myself and not be guarded in my personality. And that, I think that's one of the reasons why I became successful, because, hold on, Mousy wants to say hi to everyone.
Mousy.
Uh, so in the first masterminds in the fall in the class, we spoke a lot about this, and I feel like the comments back from the participants, the students, that was one of the subjects that they loved the most, because you take it from me who went through it all, and I'm now at the top of my game, and I'm telling you, don't be afraid of showing who you are, because we all, when you don't have any experience in real estate and you are new to the industry, the only thing you really have is your unique personality, and that is something you really need to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many people repress that inner personality, and your body sends different signals. If you're not who you really should be, if your body's sending a different signal than the words that are coming out of your mouth, then it's hard for people to trust you. And that's one thing that I really admire about you, with the funny, silly things like we and high kick, but that's you, and that's your personality, and you own it, and it works because people see you as this genuine person, which, since I know you on a personal level, you obviously are. So one of the things that I'd like for you to share with everybody is, like, when you obviously you want to be yourself, but when you first got started in the real estate arena and you decided that that's the path that you wanted to go down, what was one of the first moves that you did when you first got started, especially in the big city of New York?
Well, it's funny you would ask. I remember I just got my license. I didn't have any experience. I didn't really know the streets, but what I did is obviously I started going to a bunch of open houses, and I used to scan these big brokers. I used to do a search online, and there was hardly a listing system at the time. I mean, the listings were coming in through the fax, and people were just starting to use the internet for listings. I mean, it sounds like, I'm 100 years old, but it wasn't, very long ago. I was one of the first people that had the BlackBerry, which was, I guess they called Blueberry at the time. It had a wheel, and it was, it was a surprise for my buyers and the sellers, my clients, that I could actually answer in real time. I was out on the street and I was answering, and it's just funny how technology has changed everything, which is something we're talking a lot in this class about. But I went to these open houses and I scanned these big brokers, and what I call every top agent, super agent, has a show. The way that they dress, the way that they talk, their accents, their humor, the way that they connected with these buyers. So like my first weeks in real estate, I really didn't have any clients, and I was studying these top brokers.
And when you mean study, were you like offering to do what they wanted you to do? Were you able to, did you go sit in open houses for them? You followed them and mirrored them around everywhere?
No, I mean, I was alone, and that's a big no-no, a big mistake. I mean, if I could do it all again, I would have done it differently. And having a team today, and having a big team that I have, and hiring new people, I see how important it is to be around, you sitting in a group, listening in, having somebody help you negotiate, giving you clients, and closing the deals for you. I was really alone, and I used to come really early in the morning to the office when I first got my license, and I finally find a broker who wanted to hire me. And I came hours before anyone else in the office, and I left hours. I was very hungry to make it, but I lost a lot of time, many, many months, because I was just by myself. And I think a big advice to new people is to start on a team, even if you start with very little, almost no salary. Maybe just sitting around, listening in, and really conducting open houses and learning from other top agents. That's the only way really to learn, because you're going to lose a lot. You're going to lose years if you're going to try to learn it all yourself. I mean, I remember I got my first client, a buyer actually, 5 months after I got started in the industry, and I found them a property, her and her mom, I'll never forget them, months after. And I was totally alone. I mean, I had a broker, I asked questions, but if I could have gotten started on a team right away, I would have saved almost a year.
And that's, you're going to learn two ways. You're going to learn the hard way, or you can learn from somebody who's already learned the hard way that can make it a lot easier for you. That's always been my opinion. I like to learn things as easily as possible. If you've already made some mistakes or already hit your head against some ways or have some things that I can learn to make my life a lot easier, then I'm definitely going to jump on that. Well, you know, one of the things that a lot of people think too, Fredrik, you know, they know you now. They don't know the Fredrik from 10 or 14 years ago, and they see you as this person on TV, and they say, well, maybe some people watching this think that, you know, Fredrik's successful because he's on TV, but I always say Fredrik is on TV because he was successful beforehand. He sold $1 billion before he made it there. And, you know, your marketing strategy that's allowed you to get to that level with multiple billions of dollars in sales and real estate on multiple continents, you do something that's really outside of the box when it comes to marketing that I had never heard another agent tell me, and I've, you know, worked with thousands at this point in my career, and I'd never heard another agent that does marketing the way that you do. So if you would share a little bit with us about how you've always done your marketing strategy when it comes to selling, you know, obviously high-end homes in New York City.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to answer first regarding the show, and I've been a broker almost 10 years before Bravo came into my life, and I watched obviously the Los Angeles version, and I thought to myself, what an amazing opportunity, because I looked at it almost like a commercial, you can say, an advertisement for me and my business. And you can say whatever you want about me, or, you know, even the format or the TV show, but I hope one thing that comes through the screen, where's the camera here, is that I don't ever give up, and I try to think out of the box. I like what you said, and I'm really obsessive about real estate. I breathe and I live real estate. By the way, it's
true. I've seen it firsthand. It's true. You do live and breathe real estate. I mean, it's true.
No, I just find it so fascinating and so addictive and so amazing. I mean, think about it. I mean, what other job you get to see these amazing properties. That's on one level, right? That's here. You get to be in these beautiful environments. And if they're not beautiful, you can actually help changing them to beautiful, staging them or redesigning them. So that's that level. Then you get to be with new people every day. I mean, no day is the same. Every day is new, and there's so many sellers and buyers, developers, attorneys. You know, there's always, for someone wide like me who, I guess I get bored very quickly, to be able to, you know, run around, physically actually move, and then have my brain move all the time. It's so perfect. So that's another level. Thirdly, the new development, which I speak a lot about in this class, and I found that a lot of participants in the first class wanted to know a lot about how do you get yourself on the other side of a developer? How do you, from maybe taking buyers to developers and their properties, get yourself on the other side, helping designing these properties, buildings, houses, whatever it is, sometimes picking the architects even, and with the architects as one team, picking finishes, designing the floor plans, maximizing light and air, and then of course in the end, oops, that's a client, that's probably an offer, selling the entire project out. When it comes
I just want to point out, this is the first time I have ever seen you like pass up on a phone call. So that's how important this webinar is for everybody right now, because Fredrik Eklund does not miss phone calls. So just pointing that out there.
I want to interject too while you're talking about new developments on one of the successes that we had from the advice that you shared, and I know that you probably saw this story back in Facebook, but we had one of our agents that were in the class in Fredrik 1.0 from Texas who secured 90 listings from one of the nation's largest single-family home developers, and directly attribute it to the success and the principles that she learned from your class. And you know, that must just feel amazing for you to be part of something that's life-changing. Would that not be something that would change your entire career as a real estate agent, to pick up 90 listings from one developer?
No, it's so amazing, because you know, for the first 7-8 years in New York, to be honest with everyone, I was very selfish, and I was very, I mean, I'm still selfish because I'm very obsessive about me and my own success and my team's success and my company in Sweden. But I feel like in a weird way, the show changed everything for me, because you know, it's so strange to film and you open yourself up on so many levels, because we film in real time. I mean, as many people know, I got married on television and I was crying on that beach, and your It's like I always say to my producers, it's like you jump out of an airplane or something, and then you hope that you're going to survive. And then almost in real time, because obviously air is quite fast after we film, you get to see these reactions of people on the street and social media, and you get emails and you get calls, and your clients talk to you about what.
But I mean, even when it comes to your course, there's a lot of coaching programs out there, and I think that's one of the biggest questions we get about whether or not it's actually you, because there's so many coaches out there who have a coaching program, but then they have other people who actually teach the material, and you don't let anybody teach Fredrik Eklund's
No,
material.
but I mean, yeah, I mean, I think also, like, it's not a very fancy course. As you can see, I'm sitting here in my living room in the big loft that I bought and renovated. I have my dog in my lap. I mean, the lighting quality isn't probably the best. Maybe the audio quality isn't the best. But what's there, which is the most important, is the heart. And I feel like we have a lot of substance. Can I just read some of the things that I have a list here of the entire class. I just want to, because I know I gotten a lot of questions on what exactly. I mean, we have that website where you can see what the class, all the subjects. But let me just, one of the really interesting subjects that we talk a lot about is what is your true driving force? And I have this theory that either it's ego or it's money. And it sounds so harsh when I say it, like people with big egos or people driven by money. But to really break it down in real estate, I've come to understand that either it's ego, and I don't mean ego in a bad way. I mean ego like you want to be number one in your office, you want to be the best-selling broker in a month, a year. You want to see your face next to the listing you worked so hard for. The other driving force, which is very different, I'm obviously the first one, and that's why I love the television show, because I'm vain like that. The second thing is money. I was never driven by money. I mean, it's fun to make money, I guess, and you get a high when the seller meets the buyer and you make that commission check, but I'm not the kind of person who's like after the money, because I think those people, and that's fine and all, but when you become really successful, obviously your drive is going to come down because the money goes up. But that's a really interesting question to ask yourself before you go into real estate, or if you're feeling like you're plateauing in real estate, what is your real driving force? Because it's the driving force, the willpower, if you will, that built-in sort of nuclear power plant inside of you that's going to make you wake up really early in the morning and make you go the extra length and work harder than anyone else. What that is. So that's one subject. Then what we also talk about for a good 1.5 hours is like the first 5-6 years. What exactly could you learn from me? Like almost like an accelerated course. What could you do year 1, year 2, year 3, and so on? What to like navigate yourself through this jungle? When is a good year or time to start your own team? How do you start your own team? When is a good time to get into new development? How do you get into new development? How do you perfect your pitch to developers and so forth? That's another. When is a good time to go maybe internationally? And that's the big topic, because everybody today says they are international or want to be international, but no one really is truly. How many people really sells apartments here and abroad? Very few people. And then, of course, we go into things like, and I got a lot of people making fun of me in social media for having this part of my class, but we were talking about sleep, we're talking about food, picking yourself up, because it's a lot of ups and downs in real estate. trying to find life balance, which God knows, Mousy knows, Derek knows, I'm really bad at, and I'm trying to be better, and I feel like I'm learning while I'm talking about it and interacting with everyone. And then my favorite part of this whole class was when we interacted, and that's, I believe, 2 of the weeks where everyone in the class gets to ask questions live, and I get to answer live, and it's very rewarding because then they can ask questions about previous weeks and what I've been saying, and then I can answer, and then we all learn sort of together. And then just to summarize the whole thing, we then create sort of a network, and we have this group, and we refer business, and we communicate, which is really, really great. So a lot of them came to New York at the very end, and we got to all meet and hang out for a whole weekend, and it was really great.
And I'll say it was one thing to go through the course and learn that and watch people like Penny from Florida who got multiple $1 million in referrals from the group, and John and Danny, like Sean mentioned earlier. But it's another one we went there, and I actually got to see firsthand from what you do in your office and how you get involved in these developments and the things that you're going to show. Like, people have no idea how involved you are in these developments. It's almost more like you're more of a liaison to that developer after seeing how you and your partner work, but more of a liaison to that developer. You're way more than just a real estate agent when it comes to that side. And so many people, like you said, from the last course that we did together, the last mastermind, they had a lot of development questions, and you being certified the best of the best at it, I think that that's a huge impact that so many people don't look at in their business, which they'll learn how to get around that too, but it's something that you're definitely a master at, and that's obviously worth everything alone. Just now that I've seen that firsthand and know what's coming through this class, I mean, I'm excited for everybody that's already involved as well.
Yeah, but new development to me is everything because, I was opening doors, showing apartments. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to put anyone down who's not in new development. And the opposite, I want to inspire. I was opening doors to apartments and townhouses for years, but I always felt there was something missing. There was something so not creative about that. I mean, it's nice, you can send in a photographer, you can take pictures, and you can write a nice description about the property, but I wanted to be sort of part of something more and put my stamp on what I was selling. And new development lets you do that. I mean, not only in theory, if it takes 1 hour to pitch a seller of one apartment, in theory, it takes 1 hour, the same amount of time, to pitch someone who owns a parking lot where you can build 100 apartments. So it's a better use of your time to generalize, simplify a little bit. And in the end, you're going to get paid on 100 apartments if money is your driving force, then instead of 1, by pitching the big guys and the big developers. But more importantly than that, going back to the creativity, to be able to work with the architect and really designing these apartments and maybe picking out or identifying the ideal buyer way before the building is even built. Who's going to pay the most, and how does he or she want to live? And going all the way to the finishes and the collateral and the identity of the building, the brand, the logo. That's really, amazing. And I always thought when we have our daughter soon, season 3 maybe, then I can walk with her and I can tell her that, Dad did all these buildings. And that's really amazing because that's
legacy stuff.
I mean, I look funny in this camera, don't I?
Not at all. You look handsome as always, my man. Handsome as always. So, but that is legacy stuff. And you know what? One day your daughter will walk with her daughter or son and say the same thing, your grandfather or your great-grandfather. And that's what so many of us forget about in this real estate world too is, I have people that are in some of our programs or in mine or Sean's programs that they're third generation real estate. So they may have sold a house that their grandmother sold or that their great grandfather or whatever. So it's really cool to see that you're really leaving a legacy. One time, just short story, I was at an event in Virginia, and this lady was a real estate agent, had been for like 60 years. And yes, she was old, but she had been a real estate agent for like 60 years. And she actually had all of the black and white photos from the houses back in the 40s and the development that she had sold back in the day. And I mean, can you imagine to see like all that information and your grandmother and great grandmother? Anyway, I just thought that was really cool since you mentioned the legacy stuff. So,
well, my first year in real estate, I used to print every show sheet. Well, actually, like the photograph, what we call the hero shot, the main photo of the property. And I used to put it in my wall in my little apartment, my one bedroom at the time in the West Village. But soon enough, the entire wall got filled up with a lot of these photos, and I stopped doing that. I mean, I must have sold a few thousand apartments by now because some of these buildings that we're doing are 300-400 units sometimes.
It's hard out here when you're working hard, right? It's hard out here for the successful man to keep his wall uncovered with things that he's selling. All right, so one of the last things that I want to talk about here is your art of negotiation. We see you on TV. You're so good at negotiating with other agents, with your clients. You're a person that is always pressing forward to get things done, and you keep the momentum moving. What kind of things can the people expect to learn from you as far as negotiation strategies going through our next mastermind?
Well, I mean, the negotiation is obviously everything in real estate. It's a big topic. I try to ask myself why I am a good negotiator. I never thought I was a good negotiator until the show came along. I mean, I knew I had some skills because my deals always closed, but I never really, no one ever told me, wow, you're a good negotiator. And the show came along and people say, they learn from me, and that's obviously, I don't really think about it. And now lately, because of this class, I started thinking a lot about it, and I started evaluating myself. And what's interesting, when you start looking at things differently, maybe like sitting back and taking in a negotiation, especially when other people are doing it in front of you, you start realizing a lot of things. And that's something we talk, I think, a couple of weeks in the class about. I mean, body language for me is a lot. And I feel like you need to be mindful of your body language. I mean, the very obvious things like you shouldn't be biting your nails. I mean, I'm saying an extreme, or sitting very like, I don't want to get my microphone, but I sometimes when I negotiate with someone, I look around below the table, I can see their foot going like this, and then obviously you're in control, and the other guy or girl isn't. And then and I think you can see that on the television show a lot. I use a lot. My best strategy is sort of I use what I call the carrot and the whip, and I usually in a negotiation I do them in person a lot. I don't like to negotiate over the phone because of the obvious, like the body language and all those things that you can't get over a phone. But I go in very, very hard, very aggressive, where my counterpart is like, this guy is crazy. Why is he so angry? What's wrong? This is never going to work out. I'm actually going to walk out. This is never, ever going to work. To the very border where they feel like this deal is lost. If I'm working with a seller, the seller is like thinking, hey, they're never going to come up to where I want to be. If I'm representing the seller, the buyer is just, there's no way this seller is going to come down. This is never going to happen. And then right before they're turning away, I change and I become a nice guy. And it always works because it's kind of human nature condition that when you're feeling that you have already lost the battle, and you see the clouds open and the sun shines down and you hear music and it works out, it's the best negotiation technique. But we dissect that in a couple of weeks, and we talk a lot about that.
I want to talk.
Can't hear you.
Go ahead, Sean.
Oh,
I can hear you.
Talking about negotiation, we saw in season 2 you setting records from the records you set previously, and a lot of that is from the negotiation skills that you have, and we actually had a success from the negotiation strategies and skills that you taught in 1.0 from Scott Waldman out of New Jersey, who actually set a record price per square foot for a condo on the Jersey side of the river. And
how do we know it's because what I told him?
Well, that's what he told us.
Maybe it was just nice.
Yeah, that could be a paid endorsement. No, and then actually when I spoke to him today, just to follow up, he said that he's since now the number 1, 2, and 3 condos sold on the Jersey side belong to him from implementing the strategies that you guys or that you have taught him. And you know, it's just amazing to hear you talk about these things and give so freely of yourself. And like I said, having life-changing results for folks by implementing, just listening and doing.
But I have to kill everyone after this class, so I don't get new competitors.
It's the last class you'll ever have.
Well, you know, one thing that I can say is it gives people confidence. A person like Scott that may, and I don't know Scott previous to the class, but maybe he went out there and had those negotiation skills, that tonality and the things that you talk about, Fredrik, and he had armed himself with that. I know that he was also active in the group, so he could ask other people in the group, and that's the beauty of a mastermind is you can comment back there in the Facebook group and ask others what they think about it as well. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What's your opinion? And get information from me, Sean, you, and the 200, 500 other agents that are back there in the group as well. And that helps boost someone's confidence to where they can walk into a place and say, hey, we're going to make this a record with the highest square footage out there. I think that is one of the huge benefits of being in a mastermind, especially led by someone of your caliber, Fredrik, but just having the confidence of knowing that that's how Fredrik Eklund does his business, and he's sold billions of dollars, so it works. I don't have to go reinvent the wheel, so I can be confident going in there knowing and expecting the same results.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I mean, I remember when I started and I looked at these sort of superstars in real estate, and they felt they were not accessible. I mean, this was before, obviously, social media or any kind of television show, reality show of real estate, but you wondered, like, what kind of glamorous life they lived and, all this money they made in these apartments, and it was just, I hope that even this little 45-minute, 30-minute thing that we're doing humanizes me, or maybe the top of becoming a top real estate agent. It's a lot of work, and I always say the first 5 years were very, very difficult. And I think it's important for me to be honest. There's this like classic little cartoon. I posted that on my Facebook page once where people, now it's opposite because the camera goes like that. Anyway, there's a little cartoon where it says success. People think success is like this, a straight arrow, but it's in fact. And that's exactly how it was for me. It was many, many times actually, especially the first 3 or 4 years where I felt like I was going to leave real estate. And then I had some really successful clients, friends, and they said, Fredrik, it takes 5 years regardless what industry you are. It's like learning French or Swedish, what do I know, a new language. And it takes a while. And don't throw away all those first years. So I feel in the fall when we did the first class, there was a lot of people who felt like, is this for me? I feel disappointed. I'm not doing as well as I would like to. And how do I take it to the next level? And then it's important for me to kind of be there as a support, I guess.
It is very important, and having the support of multiple people, a star of your caliber leading it, but also having the support and the feedback of multiple people, and really outside of that too, and we touched on this earlier, it also helps to be able to trust like-minded people with your referrals. There's people in New York to Florida, New York to California, New York and everywhere in between, even other countries in our masterminds. And it's nice to know that you can, if you have a referral or if you have a client that's leaving where you're from to somewhere else, you have somebody in that group that's been through the same training that obviously follows the same mentor that you can trust with your referrals too. And that's really a really cool byproduct of what we create in these masterminds as well.
Yeah, and also if you're not in real estate, from the bottom of my heart, I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't really love it myself, because you have this freedom, because you really don't have a boss, I guess. You're an entrepreneur, right? You're an independent contractor, but you have this freedom to do whatever you want. In theory, I could go to Hawaii for 2 months if I wanted to, but I wouldn't get paid because I'm working on commission. And that's a lot of responsibility, which is scary for people. But some people like myself is driven by that. I love the fact that I don't know what I'm getting paid every Friday. I make myself every day, and I create my own success. So for anyone who's like been thinking, eyeing this industry, maybe liking the show, and not only is it a really good market right now, it's a very good time, I guess. I was pretty spoiled when I started, 2002 or whatever it was, because it was really, New York was undervalued, and my first open house, $545,000, 2-bedroom in Chelsea, there was a line around the block when I arrived. So I was just a really good time. Very similar market to what we have now, where it's an upgoing market, low inventory, and a lot of buyers on the sidelines jumping in at the same time. It could be a very good time to get started, but I'm just want to be honest, it's not going to be easy. And at the same time, the sky is the limit. Ding!
Well, the great thing about sales is, especially in a commission environment, you're paid what you're worth. And for those of us that are hardworking and willing to go after something, you're worth so much more than any 8-to-5 or any salaried position is going to pay you. I know that if I were to take my talents and go work for a salary job, I would make nowhere near the money that I make today. So definitely, I know there's a lot of folks that email you all the time asking how they can get started in real estate, if they should get into real estate, and absolutely, you need to get into sales if you're a driven person and you want to get paid what you're worth.
And one of the cool things, though, just about our masterminds, too, is we do have guest appearances from Fredrik's dogs. Mousy.
Sorry, everybody.
We have fun. It's not just about learning. It's about having fun, too.
Mousy got tangled in my... Sorry, guys. Continue.
That's all right. Hey, that's what I'm saying. Apparently, occasionally we have appearances from Mousy and your other dog as well, and we like to have fun, and it is a real mastermind. You get to see the real side of Fredrik on top of dropping knowledge bombs on you. So,
yeah.
Well, Fredrik, we got a few minutes left of the webinar here. Any last words you want to say before I close this bad boy out?
No, I mean, I think that I just feel really honored, and I feel that, once again, I could never imagine that, I mean, I'm just me, and I hope that comes across on the show and the people that interact with me, my clients especially, going back to kind of where I started. I don't really pretend to be anyone else than I am, and I got a lot of people questioning me when I got started in the real estate industry because, you know, it kind of goes back to social media, which is another thing we talk about in the class. When I started, or when Facebook became big or started to become big and everyone started using them, everyone in my company at the time were like, well, you need to have 2 Facebook pages. Everybody needs to. We were actually forced to have, well, they tried to force to have a professional page for our real estate clients and then a personal one. And I was the only one, I was in minority who said, no, that's not how you do it. You only have one. You have one page where you mix like pictures of your puppies and vacations and then your record sales because people hire you for who you are. I mean, you can't please everyone, but you're going to please the majority because you are authentic. And that's another, when I got the gig for Bravo, everyone, even my family actually, most of my competitors said, you can't do this, Fredrik, because your career is going to be over because, you know, people are going to get insight in so many things of your life and your business. And I looked at it very, very differently. And obviously my business has probably doubled or tripled since then because of the show and all these millions of people around the world in 10 countries it's airing in, seeing my negotiation skills. But going back to kind of where I started, I just feel like I never imagined that people would be inspired or people would actually, you know, I would do something like I'm doing right now. It feels great. And I'm excited to do it again. We have a lot of people already signed up, and we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper, 7 weeks. And then at the end, for the people that would be interested, we have a big, long weekend in New York to meet and look at my properties and go to my new development and have really a lot of dinners and fun and seeing New York for the people who haven't seen it.
Yeah, the event in New York is amazing. The mastermind's amazing. The event in New York is really the way to top it off. It's just absolutely like a once-in-a-lifetime deal. So if you don't mind, Fredrik, I'd like to take over here. I thank you for your time. I want to spend 5 minutes kind of explaining to everybody what they can expect going through the mastermind with us and how it works and like what we have for them. If that's okay with you, sir?
Yes, of course. I'm going to hang out and play with my dogs, but I'm going to listen in still.
Okay, perfect.
Even if you cut me off.
Can we take questions through the chat log? Because I know we've got a lot of questions that have been coming through, or is there a way that I can help you field some of those?
Can I get a hello from your puppies? I get lots of tweets there, but I think the dogs are right here, and everyone's seen them by now.
Yeah, if you look on the left-hand side there, Sean, there's a Q&A button. Hit it, and people will be able to chat you there, and you can answer their questions. So here's what I want to share with everybody before we end this. I was in a room full of some of the top producing performers in the mortgage industry this weekend, and we had the benefit of asking them questions. We had an agent come in who did $30 million in volume last year, and she asked some of the top producing loan officers in the country. She said, who here has an agent that sends them $10 million worth of business a year? And only one person out of a room of 20 of the top people, the top loan officers in the country, raised their hand. And so I want you to think about that. Majority of agents aren't doing $10 million a year. I thought before I met Fredrik and some of the other celebrities that we've worked with in these masterminds that $100 million in lifetime real estate sales was absolutely insane, let alone a year. And then I get the pleasure of meeting and connecting with Fredrik, and I realized that it's possible to sell almost $1 billion in just a year.
Wait, just to clarify, because I want the numbers to be correct, because I'm very on top of these numbers, and I want to say this out of love for everyone and to be humble as well. It wasn't $1 billion in New York. It was 400 plus last year in New York, and then 600 in Sweden, which I have 3 offices and now a 4th in Oslo about to open. So it's, I guess my name is, but there's a lot of negotiation, a lot of deals. So to clarify.
Yeah, and that's one thing I love about you, man. You're humble and you don't want to brag about it. Me, you couldn't keep my mouth shut. I'd be screaming from the top of the mountaintop every time somebody looked around. So
I did 45 million last week, though. That's a personal record. We usually do like 25 to 40 a month, especially at the end of last year, which is really good. But last week we did more than that in 1 week. It was insane, really insane.
Well, that is insane. I mean, think about that. Most people don't do that in a year or their career, and you're doing it a week. And that brings me to my point, ladies and gentlemen. You have an opportunity to come in, connect with a group of like-minded people, learn from Fredrik, learn from Mr. Matheis, learn from myself and the other people in the group on how this stuff goes down. You don't have to buy a plane ticket to spend 2 days and rent a hotel room and pay for lunches and go out and get drunk and all the other stuff that you have to do when you travel for seminars. You don't have to show up in a suit and tie that you bought and some brand new shoes. You don't have to spend any of that extra money to get involved with what we have right here. It's like a live seminar brought to you in bite-sized chunks 1 week at a time, without you having to pay for airfare, hotel, or any of that other stuff, and you get all the benefits. We do this via teleseminar. Everything that we do is recorded, so that if you do have a client, which happens in this business, we completely understand, that we have you covered so that you can go back and watch the replay at your leisure, download it, save it on your computer. We do these live Google Hangouts so that Fredrik can actually answer your personal questions. We have a system that we do through our Facebook group, which is where all this takes place and all the information is released and everybody communicates. And we have a system that you get to ask Fredrik your questions and your concerns, and we address them live on a webinar like this. And it's a unique experience that you get multiple emotions, tons of information, and you're encouraged and held accountable and forced to take action, because when you have somebody in a group that's talking about they did this or they sold this or they got this many deals, it's hard for you not to want to be competitive and motivated and inspired to go and do the same thing, especially when that's Fredrik sometimes dropping $40 million weeks on you back there. So I would like to personally invite everybody to high kick with fancy socks and join Fredrik Eklund's $1 Million Mastermind with us. We're going to kick this off Wednesday. That's this week, about the same time, 7 or 8 o'clock. With the details are in the group. We don't want to just tell everybody, but 7 or 8 o'clock on Wednesday of this week. So we're going to actually kick this bad boy off this week. So right now we're encouraging you to sign up. The web address to go to is www.themilliondollarmasterminds, that's with an S, themilliondollarmasterminds.com/Fredrik Eklund.
I'm going to be very pumped on Wednesday because I'm filming for season 3 all day, and I have a big party that night that we're filming, and it's going to be very dramatic and really crazy, and it's a $10 million property, and I'm going to come straight from filming, dressed like Leonardo DiCaprio in Great Gatsby, so you're going to be laughing at me what I'm wearing, but it's going to be really fun. It's great.
You're not going to dress like Leo in The Wolf of Wall Street?
No, I haven't seen that one yet. You know,
Oh my
I have to sell some apartments, so they can't go to that many movies.
Hey, well, there you go. Too busy for the movie theater. I feel you. I had to actually go watch it on Christmas Day, the day that I wasn't working. I had to go in the nighttime. So, but that being said, Fredrik, Sean, myself, we'd all like to personally invite you to join us. It's www.themilliondollarmasterminds.com/Fredrik Eklund. We're going to spend 7 weeks together, and then what Sean and I do is we actually throw in a little bonus training because while we don't sell billions of dollars in real estate, we do some pretty cool stuff as you're witnessing right now on the internet, and we'll show you how to do some of that internet fancy stuff in your real estate business too, so we actually give you bonuses there. Anything that you'd like to add before we shut this down, Mr. Matheis?
Well, we've got for those that are on the webinar, we've got an offer for them to join by Wednesday, right? Because that's when we're starting. Is our first call is
Yes,
Wednesday. Sir. Can you talk to them a little bit about that?
Well, actually, if you'll sign up tonight, or if you'll sign up by Wednesday, preferably tonight, so that we can get everybody added in the group by the time the call kicks off on Wednesday, we're going to go ahead and leave 1.0 in the group, so you'll have access to 1.0 to get you caught up and to have that background access, because some of you that are watching this were not a part of 1.0, so we're going to actually put that in the group back there, which was a $399 course. This course right here is $499, so it's like we're almost giving you double the value, and you're able to download this, everything else. The only thing that you don't have access to is the group, right? You'll just get the replays. So you're actually able to join 2.0 between now and Wednesday, and you're going to be able to get not only 2.0 and join the Facebook group and all the benefits of it, but you're also going to be able to get the replays from Fredrik Eklund 1.0. So,
but I just got to say, I like that that people can keep this. I mean, maybe I'm flattering myself, or us, the three of us, that people would actually want to listen to it more than one. But I know, you know, looking back at school, and there's so much information coming at you, and it's so interactive, and there's so sometimes the information is complex on many levels. So it's nice to have it. And then let's say the pitch is 1 hour. And then in 2 years from now, you can go back and you can listen to that, or you can listen to it on an airplane, or listen to the whole class, or whatever. And you can find your little, gold pieces within the 7 weeks that you keep, and that is something I think is really valuable.
Yeah, and I actually got a comment from Lori that was out of Florida in 1.0 as we were doing this, and she said one of the biggest things was the reinforcement. You know, some of the folks that have been in the real estate business for a long time, they know it. They know what they need to do. It's just getting a different take on it, and just getting a different perspective maybe from you, and then just reinforcing that and reigniting that fuse. I can't tell you how many folks back in 1.0 and on this chat have been able to say that reigniting their excitement and just reinforcing what they already knew was really helped them start implementing everything. So, listening to, there's books that I've read that I go back and read, and there's, some books that I read every year.
Well, it's 53 minutes. We said 35 to 45. Maybe people have to watch some TV, maybe some Bravo, maybe some Golden Globes, DVR, I don't know. Maybe like in Sweden, it's 3 a.m., so people need to sleep. So we should keep this short.
Well, I just want to give a big shout out to Fernando and Steve for going ahead and taking action and signing up. We've got over 1,000 people on this live webinar right now, despite technical difficulties. And so just to give you an idea, there's people signing up left and right now. I don't know how the last class we took, 200 people, Fredrik. So I don't know how many more people we can handle above that. We had already, I believe, 80 people signed up prior to this webinar, if I remember correctly. I'm not looking at it. So for those of you that like to get in before Wednesday, take care of the bonus, and make sure that you're in before we shut the doors and everything, then now's the time. And I see many of you taking action right now. And also for you, just so you know, I will email you the link for you to sign up. That way there's no confusion, since there was a few switch over difficulties in the very beginning. I'll make sure that you get an email with the link to get signed up here within the next 15 minutes as well. So anything you want to say?
Yeah, we've got about 60 left is what I'm seeing here.
Okay, cool. So okay. 60 left. You better it's may sound like a lot, but when you're talking about 800 people still left on a webinar, it's going to go quick. So anything you'd like to add before we shut this down, Fredrik?
No, I just want to say thank you.
Wait.
Oh.
Yeah, but I want to say thank you for coming on here and spending your time tonight, and then even Wednesday running from the deal. So sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to make sure that I did get that out. As much as we talk and everything else, it's still always amazing to be able to borrow your time to get you on here, especially for free for everybody. So thanks a million for that.
Okay, guys. So I'll see everyone on Wednesday. Okay, it's gonna be amazing.
See y'all
Thank
Wednesday.
you.
Thanks again, Fredrik.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Bye, Mousy.